No. Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Andrew DeStefano, Putnam County Crime Analysis. Finally, my last CPTED video for the Putnam County Trailway. Although I'm going to finish it strong, I hope, to explain why CPTED has to be applied to that trailway. Okay, but hopefully I'll finally pass this tunnel, the tunnel that's right behind 97 Old Route 6, which has been the focus of so much of what we've been doing here. That's the site of the October 19th assault. Let me just see if I get this thing right here. It's the focus of it's the site of the October 19th assault. It was the focus of the October 24th powwow down at the Trailway. Mayapack News went down there and everybody else followed them. And it would appear that I am now done. The CPTED has, as I've always said, CPTED has 18 principles. The first 4 is what I've always focused on: natural surveillance, natural access control, territoriality, maintenance. There are 14 more, most of which don't apply to the trailway. So I'm gonna go right past those. Okay. So I've been convinced. Now these are my notes. I thought I had about 2 full legal pads. I have 4. Okay. I've done a lot of work on this project. I've done a lot of work. And that's what's called a site assessment. You want to get the job done, you got to put in your work. You got to put it in. You can't, it's not just for school. This is public safety here. I'm so glad I did this project, because I have had people I don't even know approaching me, asking me about that trailway, and questions I don't even know. All right. Now, I'm convinced that CPTED is the most effective way to accomplish the 3 goals on the trailway. What are the 3 goals? Reduce crime, reduce the fear of crime, and improve quality of life. And CPTED is the one that takes that on, full stop. Now, I was convinced we needed CPTED anyway during when the issue came out about the stabilization center last August. And that's what led me onto the trailway, because I watched all the back and forth on Facebook about the stabilization center. But what I saw was that people kept complaining about the trailway and all these different uncomfortable modalities they felt while they were on the trailway. And I found that very, very interesting, because this is Putnam County. We shouldn't have places that creep us out. We shouldn't, and yet we do. And I need to know what's being done about it. I have a right as a taxpayer to ask these questions, as do you. So I believe that when I foiled, I submitted a Freedom of Information request to the Carmel Police Department, Carmel PD, and shout out to them for the awesome response. The person who does their foils did an excellent job. Not only didn't just hit print and send me all the documents, she went through every single document, and I got redactions, and most of the documents are unredacted, but some are, and which means that she went through all of them, and I think that's outstanding. I love when people do their job the way they're supposed to. So, and that's why I'm happy to do this. I've done this job. I have done this project respectfully. I have not talked about anybody. I don't attack anybody. You see a lot of that on Facebook. You're not going to get that from me. I don't have a bad word to say about anyone. This is not personal. It's not any sort of criticism on someone. This is what I see based upon my knowledge, my experience, and most of all, my education. Okay. So, as I said, I went to the first 4 principles. Now, the next 14, a lot of them don't apply, but some of them apply to different problems that we're having. You may have one principle that applies to 5 different situations. All right. But as I said, I've done this respectfully, and I did it, in the most straightforward way that I can. I didn't attack. I didn't do anything like that. I do question the 3-point plan that they put out, because it's not well thought out, and it's very ineffective. There's inputs and then there's outcomes. Okay. The inputs are what they said they're going to do. Those are the inputs. That's what they put in. But what's the outcome? Nobody said anything, and we have a right to know. Okay, you're going to install lights. What happened? You're going to install cameras. What happened? You're going to increase patrols. What happened? Increased patrols are, it's been known for many decades, that just increasing patrols is ineffective. You don't increase patrols, you have smarter, focused deployment of personnel. That's what the top departments do, and that's the way it should be done. Because you can increase patrols all day long, but all you're doing is it's a dog chasing its tail. Okay, so if they're doing increased patrols, I recommend smarter, focused deployment. As do people a lot smarter than me. I remember going to CompStat meetings all the time. We used to go, probably every 2 weeks. We were always up, and CompStat is the management, the crime management tool in the NYPD, and it was funny because before CompStat, you would have your borough stat, where your borough would have like a mini CompStat. All the precincts are there in your borough, and your borough command is there, and your borough XO, who's pretty much running it, and you're getting grilled. And I remember it is ruthless, man. It is ruthless because this stuff is life and death here. You had an assault on October 19th. This shit is serious, and you better take it serious. I saw one time, and I have it right here because I never forget. I saw one time at a borough CompStat, a borough stat, where a captain was kind of complaining a little bit. Borough XO was like, and he was known for it. He was like, "Hey, you're crying? Yeah, wipe the shit out of your eyes." I mean, that's how things. But that's how things got done. They don't do it no more like that. But that's how shit gets done. All right. So the first one I'm going to go through quick. There's 14 of them, like I said. Traffic calming. Traffic calming modifies driver behavior, reduces unsafe driving practices, more geared toward cars, but it still applies on the trailway because we have a lot of high-speed bikes. Now, I'm going to show you just a little video here, and this is the trailway. Now, if you look on the left-hand side, you see all that brown grass? If you trim that down, you can see all the way around that bend, all the way around. Right now, you can't see anywhere around that bend, and those cars are coming fast, and it's not just traffic calming. That also applies natural surveillance. It makes it a lot more safe. So you can't see. So if someone's coming and you have that stuff trimmed down, you can see them from a much further distance and a much better vantage point than you can presently. I mean, some of that stuff is 7 foot high, and you're not seeing around that corner. Trim it down, and you can see all the way around. You have a much better, what's called line of sight. Okay. The next one I'm going to show you, the next video, is the sign that's down there. Now, I used this sign previously because, like I said, it's the trailway is closed at night, so that's why you don't need lights. But also, if you look at number 12, no litter, debris, or what? Graffiti. And the word graffiti is graffitied and crossed out. But look at number 11. Number 11 says, avoid excessive speed by the bikes. So it is posted. So it is something that you can address. So you do need to. So if this grass here gets trimmed down on the left-hand side, that clears up this whole thing here, and you can see all the way around that bend. You got natural surveillance. You got traffic calming. Okay. So the next one we're going to go through, and I'm trying to go through them quick. All right, is landscaping. Landscaping is using vegetation strategically to improve safety and deter crime by increasing visibility. Now, I did this before, real quick. Let me see here. Which one did I do? Okay, it's going to be this one here. All right, so what's going on here is every time a tag artist puts graffiti on these walls. Listen to this guy. Someone in authority, he knows what he's doing. Who it is, keeps coming with gray paint or silver paint and just patches over it, which is exactly what you don't do in CPTED, crime prevention to environmental design. Because all you're doing is you're creating a canvas for them to come back and repaint it over and over and over. Say it. If you look here, you have old graffiti under new graffiti, and new graffiti on top of older graffiti. It's all over the place. Now, how do you prevent that? Well, you don't keep coming back and just keep painting it over and over as if you have nothing better to do. You have your highway department, whoever takes care of your landscaping, just come rip this out real quick. You know, keep it down, kill it, and then just put what's called hostile vegetation, thorns. Right? You put them up to here. Nobody can get in. Nobody can approach the wall, and that's it. Problem solved. Unless you want to just keep coming back and just keep creating a canvas for your tag artists to keep coming back. All right, so you get the point. If you use hostile vegetation or defensive vegetation, same thing, thorny plants, thorns themselves, you plant them up against the wall, the tag artist, the graffiti artist cannot get to that wall. And I have to say, graffiti takes a lot away from that trailway. I'll try to end with it if I remember, but graffiti just takes so much away. It adds a creepiness. It adds an anonymity to the trailway. I'll try to mention it as I finish up. Transition zones. That doesn't apply to the trailway. Lighting did not contribute to the October 19th assault. Lighting has not contributed to anything that I see in the last 5 years of police reports, which is why you go through your police reports. And lighting doesn't apply because it's the trailway, like I said, it's closed at night. I'm not going to belabor the point. It's closed at night. All right. So no lighting. Forget about the lighting. Celebrated entryway. Very important, but doesn't apply to the trailway. Doesn't apply. More to like a series of buildings like campuses and stuff like that. Focal point. Focal point, very, very important. A feature that draws positive attention and creates a natural sense of control. Okay. There's a lot of interchangeability here with these principles. I keep repeating myself. Having activities on the trailway. Every town has a rec department, right? Patterson Rec, Carmel Rec, Southeast Rec, etc. You need space. There's a lot of space on that trailway and a lot of open space where you can do, name it, okay? Which segues me into the next principle, positive activity generator. That's exactly how it sounds. Generating positive activity. What's positive activity? Anything that brings people to the trailway, anything that brings eyes to the trailway. That's security. That's a lot better than cameras. That's a lot better than ramping up patrols and hoping by throwing darts at a board you catch somebody. Okay, you're not going to catch people that way. You're not going to, give a sense of security. But when there's a lot of people on the trailway, that provides a natural sense of security. Now, what kind of positive activities can you generate? Well, like I said, yoga, Tai Chi, meditation. You can have, chess days. The Senior Citizens Club. A couple of towns have them. I know the county has a Senior Resource Center. Take them to the trailway. On nice days, obviously. You can open it up. You can play chess. You can play checkers, have tournaments. I found libraries can have book clubs out there. I did find a couple of open areas here, and pretty disappointed to see that the area itself, it didn't come out nice on the video. It looks like it's smaller than it is. This here represents the very best, and it looks like it curves off to the side. It doesn't. It's nice and flat, and it goes back. CPTED, in crime prevention to environmental design. Just imagine that being flat. CPTED is about almost the rectangular effective use of the built environment to produce 3 results: reduce crime. Now listen to this guy. He's smart. And to improve quality of life. All right. Part of that is getting people down to the trailway in the first place. Because what is that? That's eyes. Eyes are security. You have people on the trailway. That's built-in security right there. This area right here, this is just into the... All right. I made my point. There's another one here I want you to see. This one is very, very important. This could bring a lot of people. And this could be an annual thing. It could be a quarterly thing. And it's a lot of it doesn't get inhibited by weather, by inclement weather. And what is that? having 5K and 10K runs on the Trailway. This is incredible. You have 12 and a half miles, 12 and a half miles of the Putnam County corridor, and it's badly underutilized. This would be something where, again, you bring in outside groups, within the county. This would be perfect for the tourism department to advertise a 5K to happen on the Trailway, and it would require little law enforcement participation, because you're not looking at blocking many streets and intersections and things like that, things that normally. All right, I made my point there. Like I said, 12 and a half miles, you can have a 5K, a 10K, and I know these groups because I belong to the NYPD running club. These groups will come up to Putnam County and they will run, especially if they think they can get a run in, preparing for a bigger run. Like a lot of these people use these runs for their marathons or for their half marathons, for their 10-mile runs. They hear a nice 5K, 10K run in bucolic Putnam County, they're coming up, and they're coming from out of state. You got some ringers that come up, hoping they win, and this way they go back to Rhode Island and tell people, yeah, I won the Putnam County 5K. But that's what they do, and they come from other states. And I'm not guessing it. I've seen it. The running groups. I'm saying this respectfully. It's almost like a cult. It's incredibly, but it's such positive activity. And you don't have to bring in all these law enforcement resources as if you would when you are closing the streets, blocking intersections, trying to protect people from cars. There's minimal drawdown on police resources. So that's incredibly positive. Now, on the screen here, what are we looking at here? What are we looking at? Well, a lot of people call that like a, what do you call it? Like a pole or something. Those are called bollards. In CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, those are called bollards. And those bollards look like they've seen better days. Not in terms of being able to stand on their own 2 feet, but they just look so blah. They look so plain. It just looks so bland. You could have high school kids come in there, very talented kids we have in Putnam. We have a lot of talent in this county. Kids could come there on a Saturday, maybe a some sort of project, and they could do murals on these bollards. You see it all over the place. You see it all over the city, various cities where I've traveled, various countries where I've traveled. These things are painted. They have, and it's done by community members, not by the county, not by paid people. This is volunteer work here. And when you have your 5K, your 10K, and you want to make some money, that should interest the county exec. All right. What do? You do what a lot of stores do. You make the bollard an advertisement. Now, right there, this is in front of Walmart. I saw this one night. I said, wow, look at this. Now, Walmart was advertising themselves, but they're advertising. That's a Walmart advertisement. They're taking advantage of that space. And then that's the entrance. The exit had no, I'm sorry, that's the exit. The entrance had I think Verizon as a sponsor. And it's not free. They pay money for this. And you would do it during any sort of public activities like 5Ks and 10Ks and different runs, different activities. So, it's a little bit of a money maker, and it's something different. And again, it adds to the security of the Trailway. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the the next one. Okay. I'm not going back to anything. Next one is the opposite of positive activity generator. What's that? Negative activity generator. That's the same thing. Okay. What is negative activity? Negative activity. We went over the graffiti. Graffiti has got to be addressed. You have an anti-crime plan. You're not addressing graffiti. You have no anti-crime plan, because graffiti is crime and it brings riffraff. It just brings negative generation to the Trailway. That's a fact. All right. It's exactly as it sounds. All right. It's an area that attracts criminal or illicit activity. And I'm telling you, man, you better start addressing this. And I don't even know who I'm talking to. but somebody better start addressing this graffiti because it's a problem on that trailway. And the man with the can has no plan. That's what I call him. It's a guy with a gray can, and he goes down there and he paints it over, and he paints it. It's going on for years. That needs to stop. That needs to stop, and there needs to be a plan to address this graffiti. I've already said it. I'm not going to say it again. Okay, it's clearly not being addressed other than, like I said, the man with the can. Now, you want to attract people to the trailway, okay? Part of CPTED, that's what it is. Crime prevention through environmental design. The environment, not being trees and bushes only. The environment is anything around you, even the built environment. It's anything that's around you. It's part of your environment. And it's crime prevention, 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 prevention. Not trying to catch the guy after he bashes a woman's head in. Now, when you want to bring people to the trailway, who are you attracting? You're trying to attract positive people, positive activity generators, right? Well, who does graffiti? Who does it? People that defy authority, people that are malicious, people that are tenacious, people that are destroying public property. And by not addressing graffiti, I'm just saying, by not addressing graffiti, that is exactly who you are inviting to the trailway. That's who you are inviting to the trailway. Okay. So I've said it. It needs to be addressed, and that's it. It needs to be defeated. Everything seems to be happening at that one tunnel behind 97 Old Route 6. And I got to tell you, there was one time that the thing I went through, the 105 pages of police reports, all right, and the assault victim is in that report, but in a different report, not the assault report. And apparently she called, I believe it was the sheriff's department. Okay, don't quote me on it, but I believe it's the sheriff's department. She calls them and she says that someone told her that the person who assaulted her, the man who assaulted her, who's already been arrested and arraigned and released and everything else, and he has upcoming court appearances, which means he has an attorney. He has been spotted on the trailway. And according to the report, these several phone calls went back and forth, and even high level people in the sheriff's department are calling around to bosses in the street. The guy's over there now. I just got a phone call. Okay, so now these people go over there, supervisors and deputies. They go over there to the trailway, and I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if they found them. Okay, but let's just say you found them. Now what? Okay, you got him. Now what? What's he doing? What's he doing wrong? Why are you stopping him? What are you doing? Why? What kind of reasonable suspicion do you have? You know, he's on that trailway unless there's some sort of judicial order that says he can't go on. The point I'm trying to make here is that, in my opinion, okay, and listen, I never, ever guess cops on the scene because they're making the call in real time as things happen, not over the next 2 weeks or behind the comfort of their computer. All right. But what should have happened, in my opinion, instead of handling this as a crime issue and just arresting the guy, knowing that there's no cash bail anyway, and it didn't even matter because the guy was getting charged with a misdemeanor. Whether there's no cash bail or not, he's not being held. So no cash bail never should have been mentioned in that newspaper article. It had this thing, no cash bail played no role in this incident. None. All right. But in my opinion, respectfully, what should have happened, instead of handling this as a crime matter, it should have been handled as a mental health issue. There should have been already in place what's called a sequential intercept model. And I put one together 3 years ago. And I did a whole video on it. All right. Now, sequential intercept model calls for the effective recognition and treatment of mental illness with a diversion away from the criminal justice system. So you're not just locking up the guy and then walking away. Because once you lock him up, you have no control over the situation. Like on the trailway, you find them, then what? At least with a sequential intercept model, you would have had some options had you found them. And again, I don't know if they did, but that's not the point. The point is they would have had some options. they would have been able to deal with him, remove him off the trailway due to mental health reasons. If they, if they could articulate it at that time, okay. And that's what I'm that's what I'm saying. But what was said was in that report also was the victim saying, apparently she was asked in that report, can you go back? Can you go back to the trailway? And she made a statement, I am never going back to that trailway. That's sad. Come on. That is sad. I am never going back to the trailway. That's this is Putnam County. I'm never going back to the trailway. So I only have let me see, I only have one more. I think two more, but they kind of segue. Two more principles. One of them is called wayfinding, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Okay, finding your way. Okay, I got to get rid of this one. Get rid of that one, and then add this one. There you go. Now this one was put together by a Boy Scout in his Eagle Scout project. This is incredible, and it's not wayfinding. Isn't just, hey, this is a great history lesson here, or this points me in the right direction at different exits. This is security here. This helps to fight crime. It's called wayfinding, because essentially you're looking at this thing. You're going to learn all the ins and outs of the trailway on this board. You're going to learn where the exits are, where to traverse, where to go, what directions you're heading in, etc., so that you're not walking around the trailway, looking like you don't know where you are, looking like you don't belong. And when you look like you don't belong, that's when you're ripe to be a victim of a crime. By looking at this thing for 2 minutes on the trailway, you educate yourself as to where you are, where you're going, and you look like you belong. And that adds to security big time. Okay. Now, also in wayfinding, and this is kind of in a negative way. All right, I was down on the trailway, obviously, and at one point I saw this sign here. Okay, what does that mean? It means no bikes. Right? You can't ride the bikes on the bike trail. There's no bike. This is on the bike trail now. There's no bikes. Not 20 feet away, 15 feet maybe, but not 20 feet away is now this one. Okay. Now, is it a bike route or is it not a bike route? What is it? Is it this? Or is it this? They're 20 feet away. They're right across from each other. It's very confusing. I'm sure legally they probably meet the legal standard, but it's very confusing, for people that are looking at it. So I'm just going to I'm going to point that out in the wayfinding that there's I saw a couple of incidents like this. I saw this, and then when you go a little bit further down, right near there's an MTA facility down there, and it looks like the trailway just kind of ends. And a couple people asked me for directions, and I didn't know. So, but you'll know where it is. I couldn't get any more pictures up on StreamYard, but it's as you go further down, there's an MTA facility there. So in any event, listen, I've enjoyed doing this. I was out knocking on some doors because myself and 3 other former members of the New York City Police Department and veterans, military veterans, are out knocking on doors trying to get on the Republican committee. And I have to say, I knocked on several doors over the last week, and I talked to probably 3 different people that are telling me about, hey, I've seen your videos. I've seen what you're doing on there. You're doing a great job. And one of them I had a conversation with right now. Today is Sunday, June 7th. I had a conversation with this woman Friday night, June 5th. And we talked for an hour, her and I. And she's a lifelong resident of Putnam Lake and then just recently moved into the hamlet maybe 2 years ago. So what we're talking about, and she told me how much she had enjoyed the trailway. And she told me now the same thing which the assault victim had told me. She said, I will never go on that trailway. And so we started getting into it a little bit. I started to probe deeper. And she had said to me something that I felt also when I was there. And I walk a lot in this county. I love the trails up here. I love walking. I used to walk at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to the Great Swamp. It's I used to love that, especially during COVID when things were quiet up here. I used to walk to the. I enjoy walking using the Great Swamp. Um, one of my comrades in the Brewster VFW, Steve Matson, he wrote a book called Adventures Around Putnam, and it's the Bible on trailways in Putnam County or hiking essentially. So if you want to know anything about hiking or any hiking areas, you go to that book. It's very easy and it's very well sourced, well researched by him and his family, his kids. My favorite actually is Rock Hawk Park. That's a nice trail, nice and easy, but it's in Kent. But in any event, so I love these trails up here, you know. But when you walk in the trailway, there just seems to be this sort of this desolateness. It's kind of, I don't want to say creepy because that's kind of a strong word, but you feel like there's something going on. You feel like almost like you're being watched. You feel like you're not as safe as you should be, and that's a shame. That's a shame because from what I understand, they did a lot of work to make that trailway happen, and it's just, I mean, between the graffiti and then to see all these concerns that I read them on Facebook. We all read them on Facebook. You had to be blind to miss it, and it was right there. And it was all these concerns people put when they were talking about the stabilization center that they wanted to put in. People were saying, well, it's close to the trailway, and look what happens on the trailway, X, Y, and Z, and they just kept going on and on about conditions on the trailway. So I just thought that was interesting. There really needs to be a top to bottom review of what kind of plan is going to come out for that trailway, because to just write something up and walk away that's not going to work. It's not going to work. And then executive orders and things like that. There needs to be follow up. And that's where I hate using the word because I hated it when I got up there, but it is true. The reason why you had comps that was because of follow up. Guys would say, yeah, we did this, and they didn't do anything. They did nothing. So essentially, the theory is essentially, hey, you remember that burglary you had over in Kent 2 weeks ago? You told me you're going to go talk to those two witnesses, right? Yeah, how'd you make out with that? I mean, that's CompStat right there. Take away all the graphs and the charts and the computer pin mapping. That's CompStat. Follow up. I don't know of any follow up here. I do the best I can with what I have. But I think that if some effort is put in, and I think if CPTED is applied to the Putnam County Trailway, you're going to see changes overnight. Overnight, you're going to see them. And I mean in terms of the people walking the trailway, they're going to feel the changes overnight. So I know I'm the one who presented it, nobody else. So there might be a hesitancy to implement it, but CPTED is the way to go, and I respectfully request that CPTED be considered for implementation on the Putnam County Trailway. So, in any event, this has been Andrew DeStefano. I've enjoyed all these. Now, I hope after June 23rd, I hope we're heading right into the Bonadea report. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. Let me tell you something. People committed fucking crimes in that thing. People should be ashamed. A few years ago, you couldn't really talk about anybody. Oh no, you can't talk about him. He's a great guy. Well, those days are out now. Okay, whoever did it, whoever did what, have at it. So, but in any event, this has been Andrew DeStefano. God bless. Be safe. Be well.